hold of their own heroic witness of the faith and of the efforts by the communists to wipe out the Catholic Church. The poor Chinese Catholics were caught between their loyalty to the faith and their own desire to live and survive. These foreign priests were imprisoned for a few years and then sent out of the country. But the Chinese Catholics were not as fortunate as the foreign priests. They were not expelled from China, but were often sent to labor camps and harassed in other ways. Sometimes they were in labor camps for years and years. Chinese Catholics went for long years, often without the sacraments. Besides imprisonment, torture, and other forms of direct persecution, the communists devised another very clever way of attacking the Church. That is, the creation of the Chinese Patriotic Association, a form of the Catholic Church not in communion with the Pope and with the rest of the Catholic world. This effort was fueled by an insane resentment of anything foreign in China, by a desire that China would be entirely free of outside power, control, or influence. This effort divided the Church, as some Catholics went underground, and others tried as best they could to survive openly, despite their lack of union with the Universal Church. After 1965, when the Cultural Revolution began, even the government-sanctioned church was suppressed, and its bishops and priests imprisoned. By the mid to late 1960s, foreign writers said that the church in China was truly dead, and that the next missionary effort would have to begin from scratch after the communist government finally fell. Holy Redeemer Chinese Catholic Church began just about the same time as the communists took over China and began to persecute the Church. Unlike other immigrant communities where there was direct contact with the Church back in the homeland, Chinese American Catholics during the 1950s, 60s, and 70s felt that the Catholic Church in their homeland was dead. There was vibrant Catholic life in Hong Kong and Taiwan, but from China, there was only silence. Chinese American Catholics did not look to China for inspiration on what it means to be Catholic, except for what it means to endure under persecution, but to look only to the U.S. Catholic Church. The silence from China was stunning during those decades. The Chinese mission, the mission to China, has animated the Catholic world from the late 1800s until the Communist Revolution, when all missionary work ceased. Many missionaries left China and went to Hong Kong and Taiwan to work with their beloved Chinese people and to wait for an opening to return, an opening that never came. Most of these missionaries either died or returned to their home countries as old men and women without ever setting foot again on the mainland soil. In the States, Monsignor William Cavanaugh built the first Catholic church for Chinese, probably anywhere in the Western Hemisphere. While missionary work in China was impossible, he did something truly unique. He created a center for Chinese evangelization and service in the United States. In other U.S. cities, Chinese ministry did exist, and Chinese Catholics took over Catholic churches that used to belong to the Irish or Italians. Philadelphia, the Catholic Church, and in my mind, only in Philadelphia, the Catholic Church created a Chinese apostolate where there were virtually no Chinese Catholics. And this was an attempt by the Archdiocese to reach out in love to a community that had almost no link to the Catholic Church. The result is the Holy Redeemer and the Catholic Church are esteemed members of Philadelphia's Chinese and Asian community. No one in Philadelphia's Chinese community doubts the Holy Redeemer is an important part of the Chinese community, and that the Catholic Church is an important part of the Chinese community. As the decades unfolded, and as contact with China began anew, there was a startling discovery. Through 40 years of persecution, the Church grew. Estimates are that when the communists took over China, there were 3 million Catholics. Estimates are that there are 15 million or more friends in Hong Kong. And on a recent visit, I said to one of these priests, how much I envied him, having been able to spend his entire life in Hong Kong with the Chinese people. He told me that I had nothing to envy, but I had here in the United States the same thing he had, except that I was not on Chinese soil. My entire priesthood has been so far given to Chinese people, like his. Like him, I'm surrounded by a Chinese community. Like him, I evangelize and serve Chinese people, just as he does in Hong Kong. So what is there to envy? The Chinese-American scene is different from the Hong Kong scene. But Hong Kong is different from Shanghai, or Beijing, or Fujian. He made me understand that ministry to U.S. Chinese contact is also an essential part of the Catholic Church's work among the Chinese. I have 7 unique contributions that Chinese American Catholic churches can offer to the Universal Church. 1. Here in Holy Redeemer, we serve all elements of the Chinese community. We serve and include American-born Chinese and those from the mainland, from Taiwan, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Singapore, and other places. We serve Chinese from all strata of education and social classes. The overseas Chinese Catholic structures, even more than the churches of China, can offer a form of unity for Chinese Catholics. My point being that here in Beijing, you don't know Chinese Catholics from Hong Kong or Indonesia, but here we can embrace Chinese people and Chinese Catholics, especially from all over the world, all over the Chinese world. 2, we here in Philadelphia can help to link the church in China with the Universal Church. In order to do this, we must have contact with China. One of the chief ways we have done this is by befriending Chinese priests who study in the U.S., like our dear Father John Chen. These priests, and I mean this without not trying to just patronize Johnny here. These priests are, and I've seen lots of young priests around the world. These priests are among the finest young priests I've known. And they will be leaders in the church in China. They will take back to China a sense of the Universal Church and a sense that Chinese Catholics play in that church because they've seen the broader picture. They also take back a sense that the church is really universal. European, African, Hispanic, a reality we see in the United States, but it's difficult to see in China. They experience black Catholics, white Catholics, Cambodian Catholics, everything. Here, they can take back that sense to the Universal Church in China. 3, we have other opportunities to build bonds with the church in China and with Chinese throughout the world by our own travel, our own personal contacts, and within our families. We too can help to foster a sense of universal Catholic awareness with those Chinese whom we know. 4,